On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, yes, the Avalanche have not got off to the best start, losing their first 3 games of the season. But have we gone into overreacting overload? Let's talk about that. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter or X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast, which we will do a little bit later when we opened up the mailbag. Haven't had a mailbag in a while. And I always say, now's a good time. Might be a bad time to do it because it's... You knew what a lot of the questions were going to revolve around, and they did. Not all of them, but the majority of them, understandably so. We'll get to as many as we can a little bit later. Where we're going to start today, Sir Kyle, like I said in the opening, it's not the start that anybody wants. And I think, because it's a team that has, playoff aspirations, Stanley Cup aspirations, you get off to the start that you've gotten off to, it's not going to make anybody happy. And because of that, do you think the reaction, and this kind of gets into our, morning leftovers thing, do you think the reaction to it is a little bit overblown for 3 games of an 82-game season? Or are the problems that they are having right now very real? And this is what you kind of expect the Avalanche are going to have to battle through for the duration of the season? Which one is it? Is it, yes, this is what it is, they have to battle through it, or it's a long season? Things usually even out the way that they should for a team of the Avalanche caliber over the course of a long season.
Option C. All statements are true. Yes, for a 3-game span, this is a little bit of a overreaction, but when you see the product on the ice, it's abysmal. I'll give you, everybody listening, hopefully not driving in your car right now, because I'm about to give you a little homework. Go to the NHL.com, pull up the goalie stats, go to the save percentage, flip it upside down. You know
what do you get when you flip it upside down?
You get Justus Annunen with the 3rd worst. He's at number 3, save percentage, right. And then at number 7 with 3 games played, Alexander Georgiev. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you the updated number, since we haven't thrown it out. He's sitting at a 787.
Wow.
So, please, yes, 3 games. It's a little bit like, to say the season's over, that's foolish. Just foolish.
Right.
But the problems that they are screaming about are definitely bad. Like, the goalies, really rough. The team, how they're playing, no identity, no momentum. No, like, hey, shiny little nugget for you. Cale Makar is tied for 3rd with 5 assists. Like,
there you go.
Most assists quietly. Not having the best defensive start to the season, but he has 5 assists.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, we have the past couple episodes, we haven't been able to talk about, like, we had a hat trick, Casey Middlestead 3-goal streak. But that's just not what we get to talk about because of the state of the Avalanche as we know it.
Yeah, I think the problems that they're having are problems that are now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say this is the Colorado Avalanche and this is what they're going to be for the duration of the season. Like, I don't want to say that. I genuinely don't feel that way. I just think it's problems that need the problems that they're having are today's problems that need correcting. And I think this team has been together long enough. They've had a head coach that's been here long enough to know what to do to correct those problems. So I kind of feel like when the season is all said and done, the regular season, not the overall season. I don't want to get into the playoffs or anything like that, but it's just, I still have all the confidence in the world. This is a playoff team. What maybe we'll say, like, when the playoffs start, when you're at round one, and we're doing a look back on the regular season, I'm kind of still in the mode of, we'll look back at the beginning of the season and say, hey, that was a crazy start to the season. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember when we were all, on death's door with the Avs and how they were playing? Understandably so. But I still feel like it is now moments and now problems and not extended problems over the course of the season.
I'm going to also give one more little antidote to these problems that are going on right now for all the quick fixers that feel like they have everything solved with Billy Husso being on waivers. You know that stat I threw about at save percentage? Billy Husso is sitting at number 2. Like, he is the second worst save percentage at 714. So yes, it's a great name, but not a great number. And you just brought in Capo Kakinen. Like, it's possibly an option, but this is a top to bottom identity thing. And the Avalanche, especially after Bednar's comments after the game, this team needs to wake up and figure out what they're doing, because as what they're doing now is just not going to work. And I believe they're starting to realize it now that Bednar has been vocal about his disappointment in how the team is playing.
Was not happy.
No.
Did not mix words and said it was terrible. Didn't call anybody out by name. That's usually not in his nature, but yeah, clearly was not happy. One thing that we're not even really discussing too much, and I don't want to discuss it too much, is, we don't cover those teams. We talk about the Avalanche, but yeah, you look at the bottom 3 teams in the standings right now. Edmonton, Colorado, and Nashville. None have a win yet. So while maybe the Avalanche and Avalanche Nation is feeling like this is exclusive just to them, no. You got to be reminded of stuff like that. How a season starts doesn't mean anything. Everybody looks at the start of a season. I say this all the time. If a team that starts hot, as the season goes, like I said, things start to balance out. And that's even true for teams that start just gangbusters. And then they come back down to earth a little bit. But everybody always holds on to how they started and think they can recapture that. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. And the opposite is true. Teams that start off rough, again, for a good team, it's expected to be a good team. Sometimes a lot of times that levels out too. And, don't forget, the dumpster fire season that the Avalanche had, worst season on record, that season started out, would they win the first 5 or 6 games of that year? So that started off pretty good. Even the year they won the Stanley Cup, I think for their first 10 games, they were 4-5-1, if I'm not mistaken, for their first time. So that's not horrible, but it takes you a little while to get going. Even last year with Edmonton, they fired their coach in November. It was looking horrible. They had a long way to go to fight and claw and get back way to a playoff spot. They did and ended up making the cup. So are we overreacting? Yes, 100% we are. But I get the concern for today. And I'll go back to saying that. The concern is for today. And for the people who are just writing them off, I don't know why you would do that in a million years. But it goes back to it's not the start that you want for any team, because you want to get off to a good start. You don't want to have to start answering these questions. And keep in mind, help should be on the way. More help should be on the way, hopefully. And that just makes this team even better. So it's a lot to digest right now. And again, it's because you start the season off this way and because the losses are so ugly. Just the scores are so ugly. If they were 2-1 games, 3-2 games, losing overtime, you can digest that a little bit more. But the fashion in which they've lost these 3 games just makes you just be like, okay, is there something way more wrong than we are thinking for this team? And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just hey, the Avalanche are notoriously slow starters. This is one of the slowest and worst starts I've seen in a very long time, but it kind of fits into their mold of how they start seasons. A little bit worse than usual, but I'm not not throwing in the towel by any stretch of the imagination.
And you can make the same mistake by overreacting to good starts, good middles, and good ends, just as Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Nashville last year. Where were they in the grand mix of everything last year when the Stanley Cup was up for grabs? Nowhere to be seen. So the Avs can learn from this. And as Avalanche fans, we kind of grade this team on a different metric and a higher level because this is a playoff caliber team just off roster construction. But seeing it in execution, it's just not there. And I believe the team is starting to believe that. And they're going to start judging themselves because this team, like we could say, is being led by Nathan MacKinnon. He's hypercritical of himself and his teammates and expects more. And they have to start putting it into practice now. And Boston's a good test of that because they're not going to be an easy opponent. Like they're going to really have to try, or it's going to be another ugly outcome.
Let's talk about that. What we are expecting for the Bruins game on Wednesday night. We'll do that next. First, let's hear from PrizePicks. Time to get your tickets, and you can get them over at, not PrizePicks, Gametime. What am I doing? PrizePicks is coming up next, so stay tuned for that. Gametime. You get your tickets over at Gametime, and it's got the new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets easy for your favorite live event. Gametime Picks, it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What are some things that we love about Gametime? Like we just said, the Gametime Picks option, the all-in pricing option. You toggle that feature on, and it shows you the total upfront, no surprise fees at checkout. You get the seat view, the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And then Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is coverage with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. So create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it, Kyle?
It's game time.
Yes, it is. It's also time for PrizePicks. Like I said, told you we're going to talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is one of my favorite apps right now that I am using, and you signed up for it.
I did.
Not that long. Yeah. How are you doing so far? Doing okay?
I'm not doing well right now, but my goodness, I have to do it every single day.
You do. It's so easy to do. You just go in, you pick one. They give you a list of players and events to choose from, and all you do is pick more or less. So they could throw out a player, say Bo Nix, and say and they will probably do this for the game on Thursday and say Bo Nix, 250 yards passing, more or less. That's all you got to do. And you get a streak going. And the longer your streak is, the more money you can win. It's kind of fun. You're kind of smirking here. Has your streak not gone very long or what?
No, and the good thing about PrizePicks is it is so wide-reaching. You can do WNBA. They have soccer. It is, if you're not feeling that great, you can really dive deep into the sports available for that day.
It's a lot of fun. So download the app and use code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So download the app, use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Go get it. PrizePicks. You'll absolutely love it. It's simple. So simple, easy to do. You can win money in the process. PrizePicks, play your game. Do that now. All right. Got to get this. Got to get in the win column. And the Bruins coming to town, always a tough team. The Bruins are. It doesn't matter if they're one of the worst teams in the league, which they haven't been for a very long time. But even when they are, they're a bruiser of a team. And that's true for this year too. They've gotten off to a pretty good start. Had a really good game the other day against Florida, which I think they lost that game. Yeah, they did. They lost that game. I think it was 4-3, but really good game, really back and forth game. But you know what you're getting with the Bruins. You're going to get offensive skill. You have David Pastrnak, who is, and I'm not a Bruins fan, but he's fun to watch. I really like David Pastrnak. You have the Brad Marchand angle, who nobody likes him. Jeremy Swayman, now he's playing. So there's interesting storylines with the Bruins, but they give you a game. They are not a tough win. They are a very difficult win. I will be really interested to see, how the Avalanche go into this game, because we alluded to the Jared Bednar press conference after the game, and he made a comment saying, like, I would have put money down that we would have come out flying in this game and really just, nose to the grindstone. I'm paraphrasing, but just in going out and doing everything right and what we were supposed to do. And that did not happen. You can pretty much carry that over. You would expect that. Will it happen? Bruins got to win too. They're going to they're going to try to prevent you from doing that. But I think you have to see a much improved game from the Avalanche. It's good that they had the day off, can kind of address some things. What are you thinking for this game? What do you think?
I think the number one thing I'm going to be looking for is who starts the game in net. It's going to be curious. Like, do they roll out uses for this one? Is this going to be another Georgiev game? And I hate to break it to everybody, but Boston fans travel. And
they do. You're
yeah,
right.
Boston is going, like, I did not enjoy the boos that were raining down on Georgiev when he was announced starter in the game the other night. And I don't want that to continue, because we need to support whoever's in net.
Yeah.
And we don't need to turn on this team 3 games in. But just trying to eliminate Ball Arena becoming a semi-hostile environment, especially with the play and the visiting fans, they need to get out to a hot start. And this needs to be a 60-minute clinic, beginning to end. They got to get out and dictate this game, because if they go down 4 straight losses at home, people start leaving, the boo birds will come out, and you're on national television.
Yeah, someone actually wrote in a question asking if they should separate McKinnon and Rantanen right now, and I don't no, you can't, you don't have the players to really move guys around on your top line. You can't. I mean, if you move Mikko Rantanen down, who are you moving up?
Yeah,
Drouin is still out. That's another thing that Bednar said, was he's going to be out a little bit longer than they thought. Originally, I think it was just supposed to be 2 games. And now he just it's going to be longer than that. We don't know what that means. So he's not there. He's not playing on your top line. I don't think you have the luxury right now of breaking those guys up. You don't. So that's, I'm really interested to see what the lines are going to be outside of that. Mikko and McKinnon have to play together. They have to right now. That is your go-to line. That needs to be the line you turn to get things going. If you split that up right now, I don't see any benefit in doing that. But who's going to be up there? You did you sent, I think it was Ivan and Kovalenko down. Is that a paper transaction? I would really hope so. I've really liked how Kovalenko was playing.
Yeah.
Ivan, I thought was a little bit quiet in the last game, but I don't think they're just giving up on him. I'm assuming that is just cap shenanigans that they're doing. But where's Kovalenko go? I don't want him to turn into this Plinko chip that just gets bounced around in all these lines. Put him somewhere for now and let him grow into that role. I thought he did very well on the top line. Now I know when he's probably not going to be in that role when Drouin comes back, but I want to see what the lines are. I want to see what the defensive pairings are. I think that's going to speak volumes of how this team plays.
Yeah, usually I would say, maybe you would look at what have the Avs put together where you say, don't break up that top line. But no, I agree with you. You need to keep at least Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen together, because you need some kind of heart. Casey Middlestead is hot. Like you were talking about Kovalenko, that's where I would put him. Is I would make that the new Batman and Robin, Casey Middlestead and Kovalenko. I would keep them at least together, because I want them working together when Drouin does come back, and wake Miles Wood up and get line 3 going, because Miles has been quiet. And I would like to see something going on with line 4. But yeah, the line combinations from 2 to 4 are going to be interesting, and goal and defensive pairings, because defense has been atrocious.
Yeah, Shillington was tough. He had a really rough game on a top pairing with Makar. I don't know about Taves. I don't know. Did he give an update on him today? I don't I don't know if he did. Excuse me. Well, he might have. And I think it was one of those things where there was the outside chance that he could have been back for the last game. So maybe that still holds true for the game against the Bruins. Not 100% sure there. But yeah, I mean, you healthy scratch DeHaan, and I thought he was fine in his role. This could have just been a way to get Shillington in and get him a game. But God, it's no comparison how he played in one game and how DeHaan played. I'm not saying DeHaan was incredible, but he was at least serviceable, where Shillington just couldn't keep the puck on his stick.
And honestly, getting a win against Boston after the Swayman drama that we've had to endure all offseason into the preseason, if this is the one where you turn it around and you kind of like change the narrative in Boston is, are we overpaying for our goalie? What's going on with our goalie? Like, if you could shift the narrative and then things go quiet in the Avalanche circle, because now the finger points are at the Avalanche. They haven't won a game. What's going on with the Avalanche? If you could turn it in this game, would be a fantastic turning point, because then you get Anaheim coming up. You get some easier, like, expected wins. But if you could turn the tide against Boston and get a win at home, this would be a really good turning point. It would change the temperature of Avs fans through the rest of the year.
I mean, just like impose your will.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just go out there flying. And you say it all the time, but the first goal is important. It's doubly important, triply important for this game for the Avs. That doesn't necessarily you mean that you win the game if you score the first goal, but that just gets the crowd into it, especially when you're playing on home ice. Get that first goal, have whoever's in net get some early stops, and just feel good about a period. Start with that.
Yep.
Start with feeling good about the first period, and then come out and just continue to build on that. That's what the Avalanche need right now, is just build on things, because you have. I answered that guy about splitting up, wanting to split up Mikko. I'm like, the offense is not the problem. You scored 4 goals in 2 games, and you only scored 2 in the third game, but you got 32, 33 shots on goal, and Sorokin was dialed in. Like, offense is not the problem. It's all the other stuff. So I do want to see that. Can the Avalanche, like you said, can they put together a full 60-minute game? We'll see. I had a really good question from one of our subtexters, and I want to get to that. We got to get our last break in. We'll get to that and some other questions as well right after this. We're going to hear from FanDuel and NFL fans. You can start this season with a big return, or a bang if you want to say bang, return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Broncos, Thursday night game this week. I just don't like the Thursday night game. It's just not enough time to recoup. These games are always a little dry, but what do we think? Did something happen at the end of the Broncos game where Peyton was like, maybe I should unleash Bo Nix a little bit more?
Bo's not a guy you want to unleash. Him. You want to keep him leashed because he gets a little too crazy.
Okay.
But I feel good because the expectations are so all over the place for the Broncos. I'm picking the Broncos on Thursday.
You never know what you're. I feel like that's that team. You never know what you're going to get week to week. But let's see how they bounce back from a loss into a tough environment in New Orleans. So if you want to bet on it, go over to FanDuel and you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is $200 in bonus bets guaranteed after just a $5 bet over at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, want to get to a couple questions that we have here. This one's from over on Subtext from Heather. It says, how do you recommend a rebuttal to say to the naysayers when they talk badly about Georgie or Eustace? And she says, especially those who claim to be Avs fans. I totally get what she's saying there. Can you play devil's advocate here? Is there a way to play devil's advocate and kind of spin this? We maybe did it a little bit earlier, but for the team, but for specifically the goalie situation, because that's where everybody's focus is right now. Is there anything that you can say to the people who have just said, trade them both, especially Georgie. Get rid of them. Can you? I don't want to say change their mind, but just have a rebuttal for them. It's a good question.
It's a great question. This is Heather. If I'm in your situation and an Avs fan comes up to me and is critical of the goalies, I shake their hand and say, you have watched the games. No, if you want to spin it, just say it can only get better from here. And especially after the rebound after goal 2, Georgiev looked a little bit more confident, but can he keep building on it? We'll see. But you could just say it can't get worse, and this team in front of them is not that much better, and just deflect. That's what I'm going to say. Deflect. Point at the defense, and they're not outscoring their opponents. Just put it somewhere else, but it's something to build on. It was a rough start for sure, but I don't know how I can spin it to be a positive.
Yeah, I think all you can really do is just point to, and this might not change anybody's mindset. He's had good moments with the Avs. I think the rough moments outweigh the good ones, but you can turn to the playoffs from last year. I still will go back to that. He was great after a poor opening. He really was. So, and that's in the playoffs, right? That's when you want your guys to step up and start playing a lot better. And had a rough go for a couple games, but after that, he was one of your best players in the playoffs. So, is he? That's what I would say. He's shown he's capable of turning things around in the short term, in the playoffs.
I could get with that.
So, I think that's kind of and his first season here was pretty good. It was, and I know that's eons ago in hockey world, but his first year was good. Second year, like the playoffs were okay, and you can say, hey, he was an all-star last year, and he won the most games in the regular season. That's something. That is something. So, is it a tough spin? Sure. And is that going to win anybody over? Very few people. I think this is like the election. People are dug in, and you're really not going to change anybody's mind. But is it possible? Sure, it's possible. I think he's at least shown you that he can put together a string. He can string together some good starts, and this is where Annunen comes in to once he's if he has a run of good games, you're comfortable resting him for one and putting him back in there, which is what he needs. He needs that.
I just hate defending somebody with hypotheticals instead of facts, and the facts are starting to pile up.
Yeah. We had another question. Do you think the goalie situation will impact Mikko's decision to sign an extension? Not at all. Not at all. Mikko has been here for too long where, excuse me, three games of rough goalie play is not going to change his mind. What will change his mind is the dollar. Mm-hmm. The almighty dollar will change his mind. But I still don't think he's going anywhere.
No, I mean, it should make his job a little bit easier. Like, the pressure's not on him. If he has a bad game, nobody pays attention to him. Mm-hmm. So,
and sticking with the goalie questions, because I said we got a lot of them. How bad does it have to get before the front office addresses it? And my response to that was like, I feel like they in a way have with the Kaapo Kähkönen claim. And I said not that he is the answer, but that puts your goalies on notice. Like, hey, we're not just going to sit back. We're going to push you guys. As far as what this person I'm sure is asking in a big trade or something to move the needle, that's not happening now. That does not happen in the first 2 weeks of a season. It might happen by the end of the year, maybe. But I say calendar year. I mean the season, obviously. By the end of the calendar year, maybe if it's continuing this way, that's or maybe in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you might see some sort of move by then.
I don't know if I fully think it's not happening. Because I think this is, especially with that waiver wire pickup, this is something that, hey, they know this is a problem. And I believe with having to constantly send a bus back and forth to the Eagles with players just to make this team compliant game to game, there's not much the Avalanche can do. And I hate to break it to Avs fans who want that blockbuster trade, With every game that has gone on this far, Sam Girard's trade value has hit the floor. He has not played incredible, and that's the guy everybody wants to package out. Josh Manson has not been that much better. And with every glaring, terrible loss that the Avalanche have, who do you want to trade out and who wants them right now?
That's my thing. Like you're talking about low trade value. Like you can't trade Georgiev now for anything of value, for anything of substance, for everything to make your team better. I just don't see how that could be a thing. No.
I think the trade value for Georgiev right now is a bunch of old Arizona Coyotes jerseys, just a stack of like large jerseys.
Yeah. I think this was from Marie. I think this was from. If you get any bottom 6 guy from around the league onto the Avs, who would it be and why? I've always there's 2 guys that I like. I don't know where he's playing on his current team in Utah, but I've always liked Alex Kerfoot. I've always liked that guy. Early on in his career with the Avs, didn't really get a really good look and was part of the trade for Nazem Kadri. He's that utility guy. You can put him out there and he'll do whatever you need him to do. I don't know him. I've always liked him. And another guy that I've always liked is Garnet Hathaway, because I feel like Garnet Hathaway is just one of those like bruiser guys that the Avalanche would love to have on a depth forward line. He's kind of like, he's a better Parker Kelly, but he's kind of like that type of, like he's a big body and he's got skill. So those would be 2 guys that I very much enjoy watching and wouldn't mind Kerfoot coming back to the Avalanche and Hathaway in a trade.
You see, and we just saw him. One of my favorite, and he bounces around, but J.G. Pajot with the Islanders, I've loved his play. And I feel like he is like prototypical Av player. And I would love to see him in because he would probably be dancing around the second or third line for the Avs. But I've always loved his play. And honestly, I don't know where he sits, but if you want to go a defenseman, let's go get Gravy back.
Wow. I mean, we're talking about defensemen coming back to the Avalanche. It's Zadorov's coming in on the Bruins. So he'll be back in town. I liked Ryan Graves. I don't know. Like, I think they tried to make it work for him for a while. Not that he was that first year with them, he was really good. And then it kind of fell off a little bit. And I think he was just too slow for this team. Not that he needed to be the fast, like, because that's not his game. And he's a very tall, big, bruising guy, and they needed that. But I think the speed thing just really hurt him for this team. It was a little bit too slow for Bednar's liking.
He's really changed his game in Pittsburgh that I really, really, really like it now. I think a second chance with the Avs would not be out of line.
I don't know. I haven't really kept up with him. I don't know if he'd be if Pittsburgh is happy with him or not. I really don't know. I don't pay much attention to Pittsburgh. So, yeah. All right. Last thing I want to get to is a prediction for this game. What are you thinking? Avs get their first win of the season. If they do, regulation, overtime, shootout. What are you thinking?
4-3 overtime. It's going to be a win, but it's going to be some kind of fluky whatever overtime win, and you're not going to get that satisfaction of an actual win.
Arturi Lekkonen's going to score the overtime winner, even though he's injured and not playing.
Yeah. It'll be a Zadorov own goal.
That would be poetic. I'm with you. I feel like, this can't go on forever. The first one's got to come at some point. I think they want to do this at home in front of the home crowd, get them back behind whoever starts in goal. I think it's a good question. Who starts in goal? Wouldn't surprise me if it is Eustace, but maybe they just give Georgie one last, shot at it. No matter what, even if he plays great, take a rest. If you play poorly, that's 4 games in a row. Take a rest. So I think they maybe give him one more shot at it. We'll see. But I do think the Avs, they got to come out victorious in this game because the questions just get bigger and bigger and bigger until you get that first win. So we'll see. All right. That will wrap it up for today. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Hey, you just made it through another day. Sidney Crosby's one day closer to becoming the Colorado Avalanche.
You never will.